Can't nobody, no stranger, someone who doesn't know me can ever tell me about myself. Revenue has grown every year I've been at Kickstarter. We're on the best path we've ever been. You could try to doubt me all you want, but check the stats, bro. We winning. And I'm not gonna let that give me imposter syndrome or drive self-doubt within myself.
I'm Detavio Samuels, CEO of REVOLT, and this is the Blackprint, the show that dives into the blueprint for Black success. Every episode, I sit down with talented CEOs, entrepreneurs, and industry experts to explore their journeys to the top. This is the Blackprint. Welcome to the Blackprint. Here we start out every show the same way, with my favorite quote. Everybody sees you on the mountaintop, not everybody sees you on the climb. This is the show where we talk to the ceiling breakers, the rule breakers, the disruptors about their climb to the top. And you know, today I'm happy to have my brother Everette Taylor here joining us. But you guys know that we never introduce people here. At REVOLT, we believe that everybody should control their own narrative and own their own story. And so, brother, I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? My name is Everette Taylor. I'm CEO of Kickstarter. For you who may not know Kickstarter, we're the world's largest creative crowdfunding company in the world. People launch all different types of projects, companies, products on our platform, from new films to new games, from new technology. I see you wearing the Aura Ring on your head right now.
Every
Peloton,
time, every day.
Oculus, all of those things have come off of Kickstarter. New books. You know, anything from people raising just a few $1,000s to people raising over $40 million for individual projects on the platform. So we really are like a dream factory where people bring new things into the world and make their dreams come true. I also sit on the board of directors of a publicly traded company called First Dibs. First Dibs is the premier company for design. It's a huge marketplace for interior design, furniture, fashion, jewelry. So those two things take up most of my time, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So I'm founder of ET Enterprises. ET Enterprises is a portfolio of companies I've founded over the past decade plus, from marketing companies to software companies to art companies. So I've had a really interesting career through entrepreneurship. Being a CMO, my last gig was Chief Marketing Officer at Artsy, which is the largest marketplace for online art or buying art online. So my career has been the spectrum of entrepreneurship, executive roles, and now being CEO of one of the biggest brands in the world.
I mean, just off that intro alone, brother, I got 20 questions, so hopefully we're gonna be able to get to it all. But to start, let's go way back to the beginning. So CEO, board member today, How does Everette get his start? What was your childhood like?
Man, so I grew up in Southside Richmond, Virginia, 804. And it's a lot of history there, a lot of Black history there, but also it's a tough city, man, because there's so much history behind that city. For those who are history fans, Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy, you know, so there was so much kind of built-in racism within that city. And, you know, where I was, you know, was pretty much a predominantly all Black neighborhood, right? And so I didn't have access to a lot of things that, you know, a lot of people grow up with. And I just knew that few block radius in Southside Richmond, Virginia. I had my mother, my sister, my mom worked nights. She worked as a custodian for a bank. And so a lot of times I had to just take care of myself. By the time I was getting back from school, if I had like basketball practice or something like that, my mom was already gone. And so it was just me and my sister really taking care of ourselves. And, you know, with my mom not being there, the streets was there as well, you know what I mean? So I got into a lot of trouble. I was a bit of a troublemaker growing up, getting into things, and I wasn't going down the right path. And, you know, I grew up around a lot of women because most of the men in my family, due to the crack epidemic in the 80s, were in jail, on drugs, dead. You know, I even had a cousin that was shot and paralyzed due to the drug game. So, you know, I seen all of that around me. And as a kid, I was like, it was like the allure of the game, because the people that I saw with money, they sold drugs, right? But at the same time, I've always been the type of person that I took a step back and I was like, oh, well, if you do 1 + 1, that equals 2. And I saw how everyone was living the same life and going down the same paths. And so I was very, very fortunate that I had a strong mother in my life that didn't let me go too deep down that path, man. But I was always a creative kid. When I was super young, I love art, I love music, I love theater. I used to get teased when I was a kid because I loved all that stuff. Shout out to Pharrell, because he made being like creative and a nerd
For
cool.
sure, cool.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
From VA. But before that, you know, it wasn't cool. And so I think I abandoned a lot of that creativity early on. I embraced sports, and played basketball, played football, did all of that, was a great student. But I challenged a lot of the norms. Like, I didn't really love school. Like, I didn't understand. I remember getting to it with my third grade teacher when I was like, why I got to do this homework when I know all this stuff already? I'm trying to go hoop, you know? And so I just always challenged norms, but I was very fortunate to have my mother, man, because, you know, when she saw me going down a certain path, she redirected me, and she actually helped me get my first job at 14 years old, which was a marketing gig. Yeah.
So was that first job like a turning point, a critical point for you? I ask you because so much of my childhood is relatively similar, right? We both grew up, you know, in the 80s, right? Gangs, all that stuff popping off, 80s, 90s. And for me, what my mom did to get me out of that situation was she moved me to the suburbs.
Okay.
And for me, that became like a critical turning point.
Yeah.
As your mom is trying to help steer you in the right direction, what is it that she does that actually gets you pointed in the right direction?
Oh, man. Well, you know, sometimes by force.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
force happens. Going to the burbs was not an option, right? We were in the city, we were in the hood in Southside Richmond. And so she actually went to the classified ads. I'm dating myself, so y'all Gen Z people, classified ads are like Craigslist, less creepy in physical form. So, you know, she found the job, the marketing job. She actually called them up. It was a company called Eastern National. She called them up and she was like, my son needs an interview here. You know, and so I went to that interview at 14 years old, and you can work at 14 in Virginia due to the agricultural industry. And so I went to the job, and I didn't know anything about marketing, man. I didn't know anything, and it just came so natural. I feel like, you know what I'm saying, you know, Jordan picking up a basketball, or, you know what I'm saying, like, it just felt so natural to me. And, you know, the guy was like, hey, can you start Monday at 9 a.m.? I was like, nah, I got school. He thought I was at the local school at VCU, the university. I was still in high school, and he didn't want to give me the job. And I was like, man, my mom's going to kill me if I don't, because I was getting into trouble. And that pressure, that force that she came with, and that passion she had for her son not to go down similar paths is what really drove me and pushed me. And I was like, man, I'll come in before school, after school, work weekends, just give me an opportunity to take this job. And they gave me that job. And that changed my life because it took me out of the hood. And I was working inside museums doing marketing for the gift shops and museums. And I was meeting people from all over the world, bro. For the first time, people talked to me about college. For the first time, I saw people speaking different languages. First time I saw people from all different parts of the world. And it just opened me up. And that exposure is so important. So I went home and I was like, man, it's this BS over here, but like, I know there's more out here, and it's not just what I see on TV.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is exposure to the next level breeds an intolerance for your current situation.
For sure.
Right? When it's all you see, then you can be comfortable and okay with it. Once you start getting exposed to different things, it can disrupt your spirit, right? You want out of it. What, you said that the marketing thing, it came naturally to you. You said you fell in love with it. And you know, marketing is such a broad thing, right? What was it about marketing that lit your heart on fire?
To be honest, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. Not doing hard labor. Like everything, like all my friends, family, they were doing jobs like, you know, whether it was construction, whether it was, you know, stocking shelves, you know, doing stuff that they really had to get their hands dirty and like really do hard work. To me, marketing, I was like, man, this is easy money, you know what I mean, to me. And so to me, I love the fact that I could use my mind, my creativity. My favorite movie growing up was Boomerang. And so I would watch him and I'd be like, man, like Marcus Graham, like cool marketing executive, you know what I mean, with the fly suits, had all the ladies. Like, I was like, man, this is dope. Marketing is something that's super cool. But I'm gonna be honest, even though I loved it, you know, when you're a kid, you're 14, 15, 16, you're not like, man, I'm gonna be a marketer. You know, you're not thinking like, I'm still going to the league, bro. I'm still gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It wasn't until later on that I really embraced it as my skill and my gift in the world.
Somewhere in there, as I was reading about your study, as I was studying about your life, you experienced homelessness. When was that and how did that happen?
That was my senior year of high school.
Okay.
My mom was laid off. I was actually working and I got let go and laid off. And so we ended up in a really tough situation. And so I was living out of my car. And man, it was like one of the toughest moments of my life because, you know, I was just talking about this to some students. There's these inflection points in your life and you really have to decide the type of person that you're gonna be. Are you gonna be a victim? Are you gonna let those life circumstances really, you know, knock you off your pivot and take you down another path? And I never let that get me down so much that I didn't think there was a way out. And so it was a tough time. I mean, I lost friends. Like, it's tough, man, trying to go to school. You can't shower. I used to go to the local BP, like trying to, you know, use the, like, bro, the soap in there is trash. It dry out your skin. Like,
you know it's bad when the soap is bad. Like,
it's
when the
bad,
soap is
bro. It's bad. It's like terrible, you know what I mean? And like, I did whatever I had to do, but I remember, you know, it was just a really, really tough time, barely making it to school and all those things. But it was such a transformational time for me. Number one, it taught me something that I think made me a great marketer. And it's really being able to understand people at their core. Like when people don't have, not only do you have a more deeper fundamental understanding of yourself, but you have a deeper understanding of others, you know? And like when I think about marketing or I think about new products, it gives me this empathetic lens of thinking about people who are different than me. And I've seen, you know, I've experienced not having anything and I've experienced having everything. And so that was really important to me because that experience has always kept me grounded in my life. Mm-hmm. The second thing was that during that moment, I experienced something that changed my life forever. I would go to the local library. It was this, the Broad Rock Public Library. And I would go in there to seek shelter, you know, stay warm. And I would use the computers inside. And I discovered Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, you know, founders of Facebook, founders of Twitter, and all these guys. And I was like, man, this tech thing, that's dope. That's a path. And like where I came from, it was like, yo, you gonna hoop? You know, like the only people I knew who really made it to the league was like old school, Gerald Henderson, Johnny Newman, stuff like that from Richmond, was hooping or like, you know, rapping and things like that. And there wasn't really a lot of examples of having another path. And I saw tech and I was like, man, this could be a thing. And then I discovered Q from World Star Hip Hop. And I was like, okay, no matter how you might feel about World Star Hip Hop, but I was like, man, there's a black man that looks like me that got a website that's popping too. So I can do this too. And so I Googled schools in Virginia and I said tech schools in Virginia. And then Virginia Tech came up. And I was like, man, I need to go in there. And I actually had a girlfriend while still homeless, you know, had to keep it playing, you know what I mean? And so I had to, and she helped me, you know, apply to Virginia Tech. And that was the only school I applied to and I got in, man. And that helped me get out of the situation that I was in. And it like really changed my life. And it introduced me to the world of tech and coding and computer science. And it brought me around white people at mass scale for the first time outside of work. And it really just genuinely changed my life, for sure.
Let's talk about that last thing. Why do you, it sounds like you think there's value. So I'm gonna ask the question this way. Why do you think it was valuable to be exposed to white people in a way that you hadn't been exposed to as a child? Yeah,
I mean, listen, we all got family who never really been around white people. And this is the reality of the world. The reality of the world is not about white people. It's about people who are different than you. So you put me in a room with people from different cultures, different religions, different skin tones, whatever, being able to navigate around people that are different than you. It's not about white people. It's about people who are different than you. Us being black, especially black American. And I want to specify that because our journey and our experiences are very unique compared to other black people in the world, right? Being black in America teaches you things and molds you in ways that most people will never understand unless they were in our shoes. But because we're so unique and our experiences are so unique, a lot of us are uncomfortable around white people. A lot of us are uncomfortable around people that haven't had those shared experiences. And to be an entrepreneur, to be a CEO, to build a global company, you have to be able to navigate these spaces. And so going to a university that was a predominantly white institution, it allowed me to get outside of my comfort zone. Back when I had my job, I still went back to the hood and I was still around my people. I was in Blacksburg, Virginia, bro. There was no ducking and diving, like it was there, you know, and I had to be able to acclimate. And that was something that was super important to me. I've stayed authentic to myself. I mean, you see how we dress, you know what I mean? We stay authentic to ourselves, but I also still know how to navigate these spaces, which is super valuable for me.
When you got to Virginia Tech, what was the goal? What was the dream? What was the aspiration?
The goal was honestly to get a degree in like computer science and computer engineering, because I didn't even think about what was my passion. And I think sometimes we think about the dollars and we don't think about the sense of like what makes sense, right? And what a lot of people don't realize is that you are gonna make way more money and be way more successful with things that you're great at and you're passionate about. I wanted to be an engineer or a computer engineer or a developer because I was like, man, they make a lot of money. But that wasn't really my skill set. Marketing was my skill set. Business strategy was my skill set. So when I came there, that was the dream. The dream was like, all right, I'm gonna get this computer science, computer engineering degree. I'm gonna make 6 figures. That was the dream. It wasn't much bigger than that at the time.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think it's important for us as we think about jobs and careers or whatever we're gonna do. I always call this the sweet spot, right? And for me, the sweet spot lives at the intersection of your greatest passions, the things you love, your biggest gifts, your greatest talents, those kind of God-given, right? You're talking about I was a strategist and right, those natural talents that you have. And then I think if you can combine something that is also allowing you to solve the problems in the world that you want to be able to impact, when you look at the intersection of those 3 things and then find a way to make money doing all of that, I think that's where we are our most dangerous, right? Okay, so if you could go back and tell 18-year-old Everette to try college over again, what would you tell him about how he should be approaching his college experience?
Man, number 1 is you gotta chill, bro. On the part, no, I'm kidding. I would say, man, lean into that passion and remember why you came to college in the first place. I applied to Virginia Tech because I wanted to be an entrepreneur and a tech founder. I get into Virginia Tech and I acclimate. I acclimate to being like, oh, I'm gonna get an engineering degree. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna make 100K, boom. So I forgot at the core of why I went there in the first place. And it's like, it's that group think. Like once you get into these spaces, you start moving like everybody else. You start thinking like everybody else. And when you went to Virginia Tech, it was like, okay, you got your degree, you moved to the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, you got your job, making 40, 50, 60K, whatever, and you work your way up and hopefully in your 30s, you're making 6 figures and you get your family and all that. Like it was very standard. Everyone did the same thing. And I would tell that 18-year-old version of myself, like, bro, remember why you're here.
So you end up going to college, you lose track, you lose sight of your North Star is what it sounds like. But you don't end up finishing, right? So what happens?
I dropped out twice.
You dropped out twice?
I dropped out twice.
I saw it once, I didn't know.
Yeah, I dropped out twice.
Once wasn't enough.
So I dropped out after my first year to help out my mom.
Okay.
And I went back to Richmond and they were opening up this new Joann fabric store out in the suburbs. And I was like, I just need a job. I was making, barely over minimum wage and I'm working there. And I just remember driving all the way out there from the city and the gas money that it took to went out there. If I grabbed lunch, I was like, man, I'm not even profiting for real off of this. I need to do something to make more money. And I started to think about what was it that I enjoyed doing. And I was like, well, I do like to party. And so I was like, yo, I'm gonna start throwing events. And I remember the first event I threw, I didn't even have the money to cover like the down payment for the space and things like that. And we just did it anyways. And luckily it was a success and we started doing more events. And then I realized there was a gap within the event space in terms of ticketing. So we would have people come into our thing all the time being like, bro, like, let me get a discount, let me get in. And so we built a ticketing platform. The company was called Easy Events, where people could buy tickets to our events. And then also we would have a photographer in there, and people could actually pay to get unwatermarked. Like, you know, remember the watermarks? And if you wanted to pick without the annoying watermark from our parties, then you paid on the website to get and download those pics. And, you know, I threw parties for a couple years. We scaled the company, and after 2 years, I sold it. And we thought we were really successful there. We learned about capital gains and taxes and having to split up the money between founders and stuff like that. And I ended up going back to school in a Porsche, though.
Okay, yeah, very different this time.
Went back to school, but I was like rich broke, you know what I mean? So I didn't really have it like that. I went and pledged a fraternity, did all the things, had the college experience, and I found out the company that I had sold had been sold for way more money than I had sold it for. And I learned it was to a company in Silicon Valley, the Bay. And I was like, man, do I finish school or do I go and pursue this? A couple weeks later, I had my bags packed and was off to the West Coast, man, because I needed to find out what was going on in the tech world, Silicon Valley, all of that. And I went to go work for Sean Ellis, who was the guy who started growth hacking and growth marketing, and went under to get tutelage under him and run marketing for his company. But yeah, college was I knew I could always go back. And this has been a theme of my life. I'm I can always go back home and make 10, 12, 15 bucks an hour. I can always go back and get a degree and make 60, 70K a year, whatever it is. I can always go back. While I'm young, I want to take chances. I want to take a shot. You know, my mom probably never made more than $10,000 in a year, you know? Why not? Why not take that shot to be great? Because if you want to live an extraordinary life, you have to take the risk to have that type of life for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I saw that you pledged. What you pledged?
Wait, you Greek?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm an alpha.
Okay, Kappa. My brother's an alpha.
I knew it. It's pretty boy over there. Nah, that's crazy. That's all good. I ain't gonna go into you too much.
It's all love. Okay, so you have this company, you build it up and you sell it. And then it sounds like in a very short amount of time, somebody takes it and sells it for more money. Were you on some crazy growth trajectory when you sold it? Is that how they were able to sell it for more money?
No, it wasn't that. It was that the company, I was valuing the company as an events company. They were valuing the company as a SaaS company. So for those who don't know what a SaaS company is a software as a service company. So you allow people to use your software, businesses, or even consumers, right? I didn't think about that. I was just thinking about this tooling for our events.
This is the ticket system?
Yeah, it was the ticket system and then the picture system. And so I wasn't thinking about that as this is a ticketing, I didn't know who Eventbrite was. I didn't know any of these companies. So I wasn't thinking about this as a tool that could be used by anybody that's throwing events. I didn't even know how to scale a company like that. I didn't even know how to think like that. And so the person that bought it, and what was crazy was that it was a friend of the father of one of my co-founders who really finessed us. And yeah, I just wasn't thinking about that. And it wasn't until I moved out to the West Coast that I learned about, companies like that.
Help the audience understand why you can have the exact same company with all the same assets doing all of the same things, but because of the way you frame it, I framed it as an event company, they framed it as a SaaS tech company. Help them understand how the way you frame your business could change the valuation of your company.
Yeah, so if you frame the company that we had as an events business, we're actually a business in decline, right? Anybody that's been in entertainment and throwing events and parties know that you can be hot and then other players come in and things like that. So revenue was actually declining for us from throwing events and ticket sales and stuff like that. But we had, decent technology. And so the person that bought it from us, he didn't care about the events, right? He just wanted the technology, the website, all of those things. And so he looked at it in a completely different way because he looked at it as a SaaS company. He was like, hey, other people can utilize this technology and use it for their own events. Why just use this technology just for your events when anybody around the world or any event company can use this to sell tickets? And it's crazy now. It feels like I feel a little stupid, but I realized it wasn't that, I just didn't have that exposure. I didn't even think about it in that way.
And so for me, I'm trying to make sure that I fully understand it's not just that he was able to probably drive revenue, because now instead of your revenue being fully focused on people in, around the Virginia Tech area that you're trying to get into parties, now it's customers all over the nation, all over the globe. But was there also a multiple difference? Like our event business is valued at a different valuation than this tech SaaS business was valued at?
Well, like if you have an events business, right? And say you're doing 150K a year in events, right? Someone that's going to value that business is going to be like, all right, so how are you profiting, et cetera, et cetera. And that's about it, right? It's not going to be multiples on profitability or EBITDA. Like it's going to be that, right? A SaaS company, and you see this right now, SaaS companies are valued at 10, 20, 30x revenue or profitability, right? And it's because the difference between the business that I was running, I had to go and get events, and I had to throw events and hopefully sell tickets and do those things. When you're running a SaaS company, you're getting something called annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue. So people are paying a subscription. And so it's predictive revenue, which is way more valuable to people that are trying to buy a company or value a company. So instead of, someone saying like, oh, we did 150,000 in revenue from ticket sales. Well, they're like, well, are you going to be able to do that next year? How are you growing? But if you could say, hey, we did 100,000 in ARR, which is annual recurring revenue. This year we did 250. We have, we've had that, 150% growth year over year, and we're on track to do that. And so they're like, oh man, you're growing 150% year over year. So we're going to value you at whatever millions of dollars, right? And so that ability to drive annual recurring revenue is super strong when it comes to those type of companies.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson, but a phenomenal lesson.
Yeah.
I think, I give young Everette credit for even identifying the opportunity in building the technology, right? Because most party promoters wouldn't have done that, right? So you get credit for even doing that. But I think it's also helpful for those who are listening to understand the way you see your business dictates everything, right? 100%. That one single switch made a business that was maybe worth a couple of 100,000 to a company that's worth millions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved to the Bay Area.
I was between Orange County, and then we had a company apartment in the Bay. Yeah.
Okay, so you're West Coast, and now you're focused on growth hacking, which is maybe in its kind of like infancy, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, so talk to me about that, because marketing before then, we were all doing brand marketing, awareness, what people may consider some of the fun stuff. Growth hacking was a very different and a new capability. Your heart, your mind, your eyes were lit up by the marketing you were doing as a 14-year-old, 18-year-old. When you get introduced to growth hacking, what is your philosophy, or what is your thinking about marketing then?
It was different, man. It was different. It was a different type of marketing, but it was a valuable piece of marketing, right? You see a lot of people that look like us that are brand marketers and creatives, but they're not data driven. They don't know the technical side of marketing and things like that. And so when I went to Silicon Valley in California, and was working within that space, growth hacking and growth marketing was really about performance, was really about the metrics, was really about finding, unique ways to grow a company, finding hacks to grow a company. We talked about Craigslist earlier. Airbnb had the famous growth hack where they started listing Airbnbs on Craigslist for free to start driving traffic to Airbnb. And so growth hacking is all about finding savvy ways to grow a business that's not typically always brand and creative focus. Is going to be more technical style marketing. But that was super valuable for me because, especially as someone who aspired to be a CEO and build companies, it's not just about being the most creative in a room and understanding brand. It's about understanding numbers. It's about understanding ROI, or return on investment, how you're using your marketing dollars. So growth hacking really taught me a new way to think about marketing, and it allowed me to be kind of left brain and right brain when it came to marketing, where I had on the right side, all the brand and the creative juice that I had already started to develop. And then I started to develop like the data and the analytics and the performance and the life cycle marketing and all those different things that I needed to grow as a marketer.
Yeah, for me, that makes you a unicorn, because right now I think when we typically think about hiring people, and I'm not talking about REVOLT, I just think in general when we think about hiring people to do marketing, we usually say something like, all right, we want someone who skews brand, but knows the performance side, or knows the performance side inside and out, but also can do a little bit of brand, right? You being able to do both sides well makes you a unicorn.
That's what helped me in my career, though. That's what really put me on the map in the tech world, was that not only was I as young as I was, but I was driving impact by being what we call a full stack marketer, where I could do everything. And there's not many marketers like that in the world.
How did you recognize that you were unique? How did you understand that you were doing things that many other marketers were not capable of doing?
You know, I'm gonna keep it real. Sometimes it takes someone valuing you to realize it. I was working, you know, I was leading marketing for Qualaroo. We ended up getting acquired. That was the company that I went to go work with, Rashawn Ellis. We co-founded growthhackers.com together. I was doing all this stuff, but I'm gonna keep it a buck. I was severely underpaid, right? And that's what also inspired me to start my first marketing agency. So it was a good thing because it made me be entrepreneurial. It wasn't until I got reached out to by this company called Sticker Mule that gave me my first C-level role at 25 years old.
Oh, wow.
And they offered me a lot of money. And they offered me a lot of money because I was such a unique marketer. And the CEO at the time was like, hey, I've not met a marketer like you. And I was like, wait, you're willing to pay me, you know, whatever X times, you know, salary that I was getting at my last gig. Like, I mean, I think it like 5, 6, 7X my money overnight, you know? And that's the moment where I was like, oh, wow, like what I do is very unique because this person is willing to throw this level of bag my way to get me away from here. And so sometimes we can't value ourselves by how much we get paid or how someone else may value us, because there are other people out there that will value you and show you your value. And I feel grateful for that opportunity, that I was like, oh, wow. Like, and I get an opportunity to be a CMO now, which, you know, many marketers, it takes their whole careers to become a CMO. And I did that at 25, but it was because I was a unicorn marketer.
I would love to hear if you have some sort of high level philosophy around marketing. Yeah. You know, when I went to business school, so very much a classically trained marketer. And I think that as I got into the marketplace and started practicing, I honestly started shaving away a lot of the things that I had been taught, right? And kind of simplifying the framework for myself and my own philosophy in terms of marketing. And so I'm curious, as someone who's been doing this for decades, who is a unicorn, who's full stack, who can do it all, have you kind of simplified? Is there a simplistic way you can talk about your marketing philosophy?
Man, I look at marketing so different. And how much does your marketing philosophy change as a CEO? I think that's when it like changes drastically, right? Because now you're thinking about the entire organization and the entire company, and you're not thinking about what's the best thing for marketing or just what's the best thing for the brand. You're thinking about the entirety of the company. And I think now I've become even more data-driven about marketing. I've become more ROI focused about marketing, but I also understand to really, really grow a company and brand for the long term, you have to invest in brand. You have to invest in the things that aren't going to give you the immediate ROI, the long-term plays, to take the chances. But to me, it's all about creativity. Marketing is about creativity. I don't care what you're doing, it's about creativity. And sometimes companies sway too much towards the performance and the data and analytics side that they forget that. But you need creativity when you're running ads. You need creativity when you're doing emails. You need creativity when you're, you know, running A/B tests and things like that. And so to me, creativity is at the core of marketing, because you can teach anyone how to do Facebook ads, but the ability to really take a brand to the next level really takes true creativity.
Yeah, and I loved your note about, you know, how even the philosophy on marketing changes once you're sitting in the C-suite as a CEO. One of my favorite books that is definitely critical to my philosophy as a marketer was a book called Baked In by Alex Bogusky, right? So definitely was growing up in a time when Crispin Porter Bogusky was kicking butt and taking names as an advertising agency, studied everything that they were doing, and Alex had this book that I thought was really smart. But anyways, the core idea behind Baked In was that the way marketing works in most companies is somebody develops a product or they tinker with a product created, let's call it a car, and then they push it to the marketers. And then the marketers have to make the story up around the car and push that out into the world. And the core idea was that the marketing should be baked in. The marketing should have happened before the car was even developed, right? So by the time it gets to the marketers, they're not manufacturing a story. They're telling a story that's already there. Yeah. I think the power of being in a C-suite is being able to take that idea, and because you oversee the whole machine, being able to weave marketing into everything that we do. Yeah. At REVOLT, we actually don't have big marketing budgets, right? Yeah. But I'm like, literally what we do, everything is marketing.
Yeah, everything.
Right, everything is marketing. Hold on, let me see. Where did I want to go with that?
I do want to make one other point while you're gathering your thoughts is, the other piece to this is I feel so fortunate to be a CEO now because I know the things that my CMO needs and marketers need. And I heavily invest in making sure that people have a great experience, right? Like the worst case is like when you're a great marketing, you have a great marketing team, but the product doesn't deliver or the service doesn't deliver. And so I think CEOs, we have to make sure that we're balancing out great marketing with great experiences as well. Yeah.
I know where I wanted to go. You were talking about, as you were talking about kind of your current philosophy, it's still a balanced approach, right? You're saying you got to make the long-term brand bets, but you also got to be super focused, ROI conversion. If I was going to force you to put it all on the spectrum and say kind of, do you lean like 60-40 one way or 50-50 one way, what would you say?
Always lean towards brand and creativity. Like, I know, like, listen, at the end of the day, we're both CEOs, we have shareholders, you know, we got to drive profitability, we got to do all of those things. So you have to have a solid foundation of ROI-based marketing, right? But at the end of the day, to take these brands and companies to the next level, like REVOLT, Kickstarter, we're still super young. In the grand scheme of things. I don't know how many years REVOLT's been around.
A little over 10.
Like a little over 10. Kickstarter's been around almost 16 years. Like, you know, we want to be where the GMs and the Fords and the Microsofts and the Apples, like we're still like so in our infancy. And so to do that, you got to grow the brand. You got to invest in that to go and take it to the next level.
Yeah, totally agree. I think creativity is our superpower in a world that is so competitive, in a world that is so cluttered, in a world where the differentiation between this brand and this brand can often be very small. I think creativity is our way to separate ourselves from the rest of the pack. Okay, I want to get to this path at Kickstarter. Actually, no, here's where I want to go.
Okay.
You're talking about the length of time that both of our companies have been around. I once read that it takes 10 years to create the company of your dreams. So my question for you is going to be, is Kickstarter the company of your dreams? I would say from my seat, REVOLT is not the company of my dreams yet because I've only been here 5 years, right? So in my world, we got 5 more years to go. So curious about how you see Kickstarter in the world, and is it the company of your dreams?
I would say yes and no. It's the company of my dreams currently because I, as a black man, a young black man in his early 30s, got the opportunity to run one of the most impactful companies and brands in the world to exist, right? Someone took a shot on me, and I get to work at a company every day where we make impact on millions, even billions of lives with the products and the things that we've brought into the world. To do that is so special, man. And I look around and, I think about my mom, right? I think about the people that go into a job every single day that they don't love and doing something that they don't love. And I get the opportunity to be at a company that I love, to do something I love, to work with people that I love, and truly, genuinely believe in the mission. I'm sure you've been at, not to call anything out, but companies or brands where you may not have fully believed in the mission or the product and things like that. I have 100% faith in our mission. I have 100% faith in our product. I have 100% faith in our team. And so for me, man, I feel like you couldn't have drawn up a better company for me to be at. With that being said, this company ain't nothing compared to the company that's going to be there 10 years from now. And when I turned around the company, because, when I came into the company, it was declining revenue. decline in relevance, and all of that. And we turned it around and we got named Top 100 most influential companies in the world. And I told my executive team, I was like, this is cool, but I want to be the most influential company in the world. And like, people look at you crazy when you talk like that, but I believe that. And so for me, my dream company is the most influential company in the world. And I will never be truly at my dream company until we're at that level. And that's why I've invested in innovation. I've invested in breaking the ceiling. I've invested in taking chances, because we need to do that to get to that level of company.
My feeling is very similar. I don't want people from REVOLT to hear this and feel like I hate this company. I love the company. I love everything that we're doing. I love the impact, but I feel very similar. And one of the things that I've learned sitting in this seat, it's the CEO seat that's taught it to me, was the importance of dreaming wild. For multiple reasons, right? Nobody wants to do something boring. Everybody wants to go on like the biggest missions. We're gonna land a spaceship on Mars, right? Everybody wants to go on that dream. Nobody wants to just wake up and make content, right? So I've learned the importance of being able to have big dreams in order to motivate the people that I'm around. I've also learned about the importance of big dreams in terms of raising money. Have you had to raise money for Kickstarter in order to? Okay, you guys all self-funded.
Kickstarter was profitable in year 2. Okay. Think about all the internet, Silicon Valley type companies. Again, it takes a long time, profitable in year 2. So we've been a market leader, an industry leader for a long time. And so we've just been in a very unique position, unlike a lot of companies.
So for us, when I think about, did you ever see the series We Crashed? The one around WeWork? It's a phenomenal series.
Oh, yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal series, and this is where I kind of learned the lesson, which is nobody wants to invest in a company that's only raising like $200,000, right? Like real people with real money, like they don't get out of bed for anything that's not magnitude, for anything that's not gonna change the world.
Not even 100 million.
100%, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I tell this story all the time. When I first got to REVOLT, I had to come up with a vision and a strategy for the company, and I pulled together a deck and I pushed it in front of the chairman, and the very first question was, how much money are we raising? And my answer, I knew the company was probably at the time worth less than 100 million, but I knew I had to say a real number. So my number was 100 million. Now for 100 million, you could have started REVOLT from scratch, right? But I still said, push the deck right back like, nah, I ain't big enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, if $100 million idea is not big enough for me to get excited, like I want to change the world. And so I've learned about the power and the necessity of having these really big dreams. How do you manage the big dream that you're chasing with the day-to-day? I find that I can often be living a year ahead, 2 years ahead. Sometimes I'm counting initiatives that we're doing as if they've already happened, right? And then all of a sudden stuff will start blowing up and I'm like, oh, I got to come back from 2 years and come back to today and make sure we get this piece of the puzzle right. How do you balance dreaming big, chasing that big thing, but also still focusing on the day-to-day?
I think it's important to create a vision and a North Star for a company where all of your work, all of your goals, everything that you do day to day, week to week, year to year, all feeds into that central vision. So you never lose sight. You know that you're always making progress, even if it's a little bit of progress. But with that being said, I'm gonna keep it 100 with, I've actually never talked about this on camera before. Man, I value time so much. I'm obsessed with time. My friends know this about me. Like, I hate being late. I hate when other people are late. Like, I value my time so much. And sometimes that grind is frustrating, man, because you see where you want to go and you're like, man, that's going to take me 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to get there. And you know the company is working towards that, but it's frustrating sometimes because you know that you see where it's going to go and you want to get there, but the process is grueling sometimes. And every day, you know, every now and then, every CEO has that bad day where they get frustrated and they're like, man, wait, this got delayed. We got to wait another 6 months for this product to get built. We got to wait to do this launch, et cetera, et cetera. And so even me, myself, as grateful as I am in my position, I still every now and then get frustrated because, man, that day-to-day grind is tough, especially as a CEO.
They always say the word is like, heavy as the crown.
Yeah.
right? So it's stressful being a CEO in general. You're not just a CEO, you're a young Black CEO, right? Heavy as the crown. What is your process, routines? What do you do to stay healthy? What do you do to keep your mind like focused and good so that you can actually execute on the dream that you're trying to build?
Man, the crown is heavy. We were in the green room earlier, and I said there is nobody in that room that can quite understand what it's like to be us. And that's no knock or no diss. But when you have that many employees, that many people, that many users, customers, whatever, millions of people, it's just a different level of pressure. And sometimes your life doesn't feel like your own because you have to give so much of yourself to your company, your team, your brand. Everywhere you walk, you're the CEO of REVOLT. Like you can't separate it, you know? And that's tough, bro. And I find that more and more of my self-care involves me like not being out anywhere, because when I'm out, I have to deal with everything. It's like, man, I just want to go and eat a meal. And then it's like, no, this is CEO of Kickstarter eating a meal, right? And so a lot of things that I'm like, recently, I just been like loafing in bed, watching Dexter reruns on Netflix, and just relaxing. I try to get massages when I can. And now you got like at-home massages, so I don't even have to leave the house. And really just trying to be healthier, like work out more, take walks, read more, all that. We got this bookstore, like bar bookstore down the street from me in Bed-Stuy called Dear Friend Books, and they got beautiful poetry books and all different types of books. And so like I just been trying to spend more time, especially traveling all the time, to just spend more time at home, spend more time just like investing in just like the simple things in my life, and trying to invest more time being around the people that I love, you know? But it's still tough, man, because every time I step out the door, there's a whole weight that I have on myself, whether I'm on a date, whether I'm with friends, whether I'm going out. You know, you've probably experienced the same thing. You might be out, you social, we young Black men, right? And they were like, man, you here? Like, I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm 35. Like, I'm trying to have a good time too and enjoy my life. And so that separation is really, really difficult. And I'll be honest, I'm still trying to figure it out. Some moments I'm like, man, I really got to figure it out. I'm good. And then other moments I'm like, man, I don't have anything figured out. So it's a process for me for sure.
Yeah, I'm 100% aligned with you on everything. So I would say my two keys are routines, right? So I haircut every week, in-home massage every week, workout, typically swim every day. If I'm not swimming, I'm shadow bike, right? Like just these routines that I have to keep me healthy and sane. And then I couldn't agree with you more about this idea of like not even wanting to be out in the real world. I just bought a beautiful house out here in Atlanta.
Congrats, man.
And the sole purpose of it was I want to be able to have everything that I need in this space. I want to have a beautiful, wonderful house so that all of my friends, all of those people who are my safe spaces, they all feel comfortable coming over here, so that I don't have to be out in the streets. I don't have to be outside. If I'm outside, it's work related.
It's work.
But work doesn't feel safe, not because I'm worried about my life, but because I'm not surrounded by the people who love me. I'm not surrounded, you know, when in your seat, I have to imagine we're both in relatively similar seats. I'm one of the few people in Hollywood, Black people who have green light power. That means everybody who has a show wants to pitch you the show to get you to take it, right? You're the only, like, again, you're dealing with all these entrepreneurs. Think about how many entrepreneurs, everywhere you go, people, that's not safe to me, right? I'm literally trying to build my, this little 1 acre plot, my entire world, so that I don't have to leave. So we talk about handling the responsibility. There's so few people who can see the world through your lens. How do you think about advisors, mentors, those types of things at this stage in your career?
Yeah, you know what? You know, I just did a talk at Wharton, which is where did you go to business school?
Stanford.
Stanford.
Better than Wharton.
They're tied right now. They're tied. Stanford and Wharton are tied at #1 right now, actually. I'm at Wharton, and they asked me, like, you know, what was like mentors like for you coming up in your journey? And I was like, man, I really didn't really have a true mentor, because mentorship is different. Like working for somebody doesn't mean that they're your mentor, because they're getting value, they're deriving value from you. Are they actually pouring into you? Are they, do they want to see you be successful? Are they taking the extra time to invest into you? And so have I had some people that I appreciate as bosses and things like that? Absolutely. It wasn't until my 30s where I really truly felt like I had a true mentor, and that was Mike Stibe, the CEO of Artsy at the time. Now he's the CEO of Tegna, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. But at the time he was my CEO, and I told him straight up, I was like, hey, I want to be a CEO. I want your job actually whenever you leave. And he actually took extra time out to invest in me. We had a one-on-one every week, 30 minutes, and he added an additional 15 minutes every week to our one-on-ones, just so we do the 30 minutes. It's like, all right, that was a CMO CEO talk, 15 minutes. All right, now this is how I'm looking at everything as a CEO. This is how I would move and think about these things differently as a CEO. And it really prepped me to take things to the next level. I tell people all the time, throughout my journey, I was starting my own companies. I started, multiple $1 million revenue companies. I did all that, but I had to figure it out myself. I was CMO of startups where the founders were younger than me, and I was like just always having to figure out. It was the first time in my career that I had someone who really genuinely poured into me. And that's something that changed my life forever. I will say he wasn't necessarily a mentor, but the person that also changed my life was this guy named Bob Koch. He was the guy at Eastern National who hired me when I was 14 years old. I was a young black kid from the hood in Southside Richmond. I probably didn't talk proper. I can't even imagine what I wore to that interview. It probably wasn't great. And he could have hired anybody in the world, and he took a chance on me. And I will never forget that. I appreciate that. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. And that was an older white man. Doesn't look like me, doesn't come from my background. And for him to take me, teach me and help me learn some marketing and sales stuff and things like that. He wasn't like a true mentor, but he definitely changed my life for sure.
Yeah, we all need those people somehow, some way, who help us elevate and get to where we want to get to. Yeah. I think that we live in a day and age where people only want to showcase success, and you've clearly been successful. But right now we always just, everybody highlights the highlight reels, right?
Yeah,
what can you put on Instagram? What can you put on TikTok to showcase the beauty of it? What's the dark side of being successful that nobody told you about?
Oof. I don't know about you, bro, but when I got into this game, I did not get into this game to be a public figure. I did not think wanting to be a tech founder or an engineer or a marketer that I would have a brand, that I would have to deal with all the stuff that comes with it. The lack of privacy, like I'm at a little bit of a loss for words because, man, it impacts me deeply, bro. Like it feels like, you can never meet anyone with a clean slate. Someone's always Googling you or looking through your Instagram or whatever. That's been really tough for me, man. Like, it's been like trying to find genuine friendships. It's hard as hell to date. It's hard as hell. Like, you Google and like the first thing people are looking up is my net worth. I'm like, that ain't even right. You know what I mean? So it really is tough, man. Like that's a tough part. People that want to use you, people that are in your life for the wrong reasons, and people who are actively rooting against you. People talk about like, oh, if you ain't, you ain't successful if you don't have enough haters. I'm like, bro, I got enough haters. I don't need more. Cool, like I'm good. But just seeing that and seeing that when you stumble, people rejoice. The whispers behind your back, these things weigh on your mental health, man, and it's tough. And like I think the other part is when you're a CEO and you're successful, people they dehumanize you, you know what I mean? And they don't see you as a person anymore. And it's like, man, nah, I got stuff going on in my life. I lost my grandma this January. Like, there's tough things. And like, we as leaders, every day, we have to be the best version of ourselves. Like, every day, we have to be 100%. Every call, every meeting, every time we're walking down the hall, anytime we're out, we have to be 100. And I talk about this all the time, like every person I meet, this might be the only time we get a chance to interact or meet. And if I'm not my best self, then, Everett Taylor's an a-hole, you know what I mean? And so for me, it's just that pressure, the lack of privacy, the dehumanization, and the pressure constantly, man. Like, it's tough. It's mentally and emotionally physically exhausting as well, man. And that's tough. And the last thing I will say, sorry to be so verbose, is I haven't really talked about this before, but everything, when I talk about your life is public, that means your wins and your failures 100%. Are public. Like if you lose a job or, something bad happens at REVOLT, something bad happens at Kickstarter, man, it's on Front Street. You know what I mean? And that's tough to deal with. Like most people, their failures, their losses are quiet. No one knows about it, or a few people know about it. For us, if something happens at REVOLT, something happens at Kickstarter, everyone knows about it. Everyone can see it. Everyone can Google it. It puts an incredible pressure on everything. And so just really, man, the biggest thing I realized is, man, life is about love and having genuine love around you. And like, that's the only way you can make it through all of this,
Agreed. That's why I got the house. I'm bringing the love back. Keep me inside. No, yeah. I feel all of that, man. It's, again, I know I have a show. I know that I can be a public figure. I didn't want any of this. Mm-hmm. If you listen to any conversation I've had since I was probably 22 years old, my dream was to be, I used to say, like the mob boss. Like the mob boss is that person, people know they exist, right? But if you come to the Italian restaurant, they're not in the front. They're in the back with the people making kitchen. You know they're there, you know they're, but it's not about them. It's about that's what I wanted. Again, I never wanted to be famous. I think I've seen fame. I've been too close to fame to not know that fame comes with such a high cost that I was unwilling to pay it, right? But we somehow, for some reason, exist in this moment in time where CEOs have to be front facing. CEOs are some of the biggest marketers for the companies, right? And so because of that, it created a friction between what I actually wanted to do and what was required to do the job. And I've always just said, like, nothing gets in the way of the mission. To your point, if the dream is the dream, if we are building the first Black-owned global media empire, then the dream is the dream. And all of my little feelings about not wanting to be out, not wanting to be outside or not wanting to have my own, like all those things got to go away. And I just got to focus on the mission. This moment in DEI, we're talking about the pressure and what it's like to be a CEO. Like, I think it brings me to this moment in DEI where so much of the conversation has been weaponized, and they'll try to say DEI means you didn't earn it. So there's a lot of people who might look at me or look at you and go, he's just a DEI hire, right? Because you are the CEO of this massive brand. Have you felt any of that? Like in this moment, has your past reputation kind of kept you anchored and everyone knows, or are you feeling some of this other energy that's existing because of the conversations around DEI?
Listen, can't nobody, no stranger, someone who doesn't know me can ever tell me about myself. Have I felt it? No, not really. But also, revenue has grown every year I've been at Kickstarter. We're on the best path we've ever been as a company, new business lines, all that. So for me, it's like, you could try to doubt me all you want, but check the stats, bro. We winning, And so to me, I'm not hearing all of that. I haven't personally heard all of that, you know what I mean? But I'm sure that it'll come. I'm sure it'll be part of it, For me, I understand the impact that I drive, the value that I drive at the company. And I understood that I got this job fair and square. It was, probably the same with you at REVOLT. It's months and months and months of interviews and process and I was competing with people that were, 20 plus years older than me and things like that. Like, I really did the work and I had the resume to make it happen. Did they have to take a shot on me? Absolutely, because I had never been a CEO of a company at that scale. But the impact that I drove in my last role, my success as an entrepreneur, and my ability to build products, build brands, all of that, my track record was proven. And so to me, can't nobody tell me about myself, bro. And I understand where, you know, this vocal minority of people that are like trying to attack DEI and all of these things, man. Like, listen, man, I'm gonna still continue to build my way. I'm gonna continue to still deliver results, and I'm not gonna let that give me imposter syndrome or drive self-doubt within myself.
I love that. Yeah, the whole thing around DEI, even if you didn't do that whole long process, even if you just got the job, it was handed to you, which I think happens to people who don't look like us all of the time.
All the time, man.
Like at the end of the day, you've been in the seat performing, right? You're always saying, God, we trust, everybody else bring your data, right? Like, I actually don't care how I got the job because they don't care how they got the job. What I care about is once I got the job, how did I show up? How did I perform? Have you ever had imposter syndrome? You've been doing this was there a moment, have you ever had imposter syndrome?
I get this question a lot, and I be like, bro, am I like, is there something mentally wrong with me? I just been confident, bro. I've always, been confident, it's crazy. I used to quote Kanye, and he just, he had that line, I could let these dream killers kill my self-esteem or use that power,
power my dreams.
Power my dreams, power my dreams, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm like, man, that's terrible. To all my hip hop heads, I'm messing
Somebody
up.
drop it in the chat.
Put it in
the comments.
But yeah, to have that ability and that confidence, and again, like I told you, I've felt this way where I'm like, man, I'm playing with house money because I'm living my ancestors' wildest dreams, and even when I went and I wasn't making much money moving out to the West Coast, I was like, I'm still making more money than anybody in my family's ever made. I'm doing things that no one I know is doing or willing to take those risks, And so I just have supreme confidence in myself. I've always had supreme confidence. You ask anybody that know me, that's just how I've always been. That's how I've always been built. Do I understand that like I lack certain things? Do I understand my weaknesses? Absolutely. But I feel like anything that I set my mind to is possible. And if I can't do it, I'm gonna build a team around me that can. And so to me, like the imposter syndrome, even taking a seat at Kickstarter, bro, I was 32 years old, 33 years old, taking the seat of Kickstarter, a household name brand. They thought they were going to get probably somebody a lot older and a lot more experienced in the role. So of course there was like doubters and haters and things like that. But like, man, I just let that fuel me and push me, and I don't let that imposter syndrome get to me.
The power of confidence, the power of believing in yourself. And I think also this reality that I feel like a lot of us don't understand, which is you don't have to know the right answer. You just have to be able to find the people that do.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so I think we always take so much of it on ourselves, but that's not actually the job, right?
I'm a hustler. I'm a hustler, bro. A hustler doesn't necessarily have to do everything himself. A hustler finds a way. However which way, they have to find a way. And it doesn't mean I have to do it myself. It means figuring it out.
That's right, by any means necessary. Okay, as we get ready to close, I want to ask you 1 or 2 quick questions around entrepreneurship. You've been an entrepreneur your entire life. You've been around entrepreneurs your entire life. What is a secret about entrepreneurship that you don't think people talk about enough? Or is there like a simple truth about what it takes to win as an entrepreneur that you don't feel like people talk about enough?
They don't talk about enough. Number one is what we were just talking about. You cannot do this alone. Like, even for the solopreneurs and things like that, you always need support. You need help in some way along the journey. No one does this alone. And I think a lot of people try to pretend and act like that. And it's a bad influence to everyone else out there. There's going to be key people in your life that are going to help you, support you, building the right team around you. Like, it really is. It takes a village to be a really, really successful entrepreneur. I think the other piece is you got to be ready, man. And you got to take every minute, every hour, every day seriously. Like, you got to do the things that other people are not willing to do. And I know people talk about that, man, but like, I just don't think most people are built for that sacrifice. And it's all about the life that you want for yourself. Like, do you want to live an extraordinary life? Do you want to live a very regular life? And to do that, you got to make the sacrifices to make it happen. And just understand you're choosing a path that you're choosing a more difficult path for yourself in your life, man. And so just value time, value every moment, every resource. Like when your friends out partying, like, or doing this, you gotta be like, man, I gotta lock in. I gotta do that. And just focus, man. So for real, to me, it's like, it takes a village. And number two, like, it really takes genuine sacrifices, not what you see on Instagram and these people trying to like build brands as entrepreneurs, giving bad advice. Like, it's real, man.
Last question. You talked about the dream for Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Now I want to tap into the legacy of Everette.
Yeah.
Right. So if we fast forward 50 years, what is the sentence? What is the line? What is it that you want them saying about Everette? What did he do while he was here with his time on this earth?
Everette was a good person. That's it. I don't really care about legacy, bro. I don't really care about a lot of the things that other people care about. The truth of the matter is, in 100 years, 200 years, are they gonna be talking about you, or are they gonna be talking about Revolt? In 100 and 200 years, are they gonna talk about me, or are they gonna be talking about Kickstarter, right? People get so caught up in this feeling of like legacy and wanting to be remembered and fear of death and being scared. Who cares, man? At the end of the day, live the best life you can possibly live and genuinely and positively impact as many people as you can and be as kind as you can to as many people as possible. So at the end of the day, like, I don't expect people to be talking about me in 100 years. Who are we talking about from 1925? It's only a handful
of them, right.
Really only a handful of people, man. So I don't get too caught up in that. I just want people who do remember me to know that I was a good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel similarly. Whenever I talk about it, for me, I want to be remembered, not anything to do with Detavio, but because of all the branches that were born out of my leadership, right? Yeah. The amazing people that came to Revolt and what they then went on to do, right? This amazing company called Revolt that we built and what it went on to do, right? I care way more about the branches than I do about myself as kind of like the trunk of the tree.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Phenomenal conversation. I so appreciate you. In order to close out, did we miss anything? You got any final words for the people who have tuned in and stuck with us for this incredible conversation? Any last words?
Listen, I'm still a marketer. If you haven't used Kickstarter, go to Kickstarter.com, download the Kickstarter app. Whether you're someone that's trying to make your dreams come true, launch something new, check it out. If you want to back something, make someone else's dreams come true, or, you know, support something that you love. Like, go to Kickstarter. That's all. That's it. That's it. And check out Revolt, of course.
I appreciate you. Man, you taught us so much. The power of supreme confidence, the power of believing in yourself, your philosophy on marketing and running companies. And I also just appreciate the vulnerability with which you spoke to in terms of the seat that you're in and being a CEO. So thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for coming to the Blackprint, man. It's also just good, you know, what people don't know is we see each other on social media all the time, but this is the first time that we really got to be in the same room. So thank you for being here.
I appreciate that, man. And it's the fraternity that we in that is a small fraternity of Black CEOs. And, you know, being able to sit here and talk to you and know that I'm sitting across someone who understands. And that's rare. Like, this felt like a therapy session, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you, man. Keep doing your thing.
Appreciate you, King. Love.
Cool.
What a phenomenal conversation with Everette Taylor. I think he brings such wisdom given he's been doing what he's been doing from such a young age. When I think about things that pop out in this interview for me, I think about three different things. One, I think about the power of framing, and I think framing is always important to our lives. I think that you can see two people have the same exact experience and they frame it differently and it'll send them on completely different paths, right? And what you can see happen in Everette's world is when you look at the first company that he sold, he framed it as an events company, which got him X amount of money, and then someone bought it and immediately sold it as a SaaS company. They framed the company differently, and instead of being worth hundreds of thousands, it was worth millions, right? This idea that how we frame life, how we frame the assets that we govern, how we frame the world that we live in and what we see can fundamentally shift and change the trajectory of what we're doing. 2, the other thing that I love about his story is deep inside everything is this thread about him having supreme confidence. There's never a moment in time where Everette is not believing in himself. So much so that when I ask him about imposter syndrome, he's like, he's never even had to deal with it, right? This is someone who started as a marketer at 14, built and sold his own company while he was a teenager and finishing college or in college. It's incredible what he has done in Silicon Valley as a black man and as a CEO in very white spaces, but there's never a moment where he doesn't believe in himself. And it just reminds me that if you want to accomplish really, really amazing things, we have to have really, really, really amazing confidence and belief in ourselves. The third thing that he talked about that for me kind of jumped out was this notion around how greatness requires different decisions. He talks about how he knew that his worst case scenario was always going back and doing what is normal. You know, getting a college degree, getting a job, making 70 to 100,000. He knew that that was his worst case scenario, and being comfortable with that worst case scenario, he makes a decision to be extraordinary, which then requires extraordinary decisions. He's taking different risks. He's dropping out of college. He's moving to the Bay Area and to California to pursue entrepreneurship and life in this tech world. And so again, there's never a moment where you see him choosing what is normal, choosing what is average. He's always choosing what allows him or what could potentially enable him to be great. And so I think it's a great reminder for us. We got to choose to be great. We then have to have the confidence to pursue those great things. And as we're doing it, we have to constantly be framing our world and framing our life in a way that benefits us and allows us to extract the most value out of it. Everette Taylor, phenomenal conversation. This will go down in the books as one of my favorite conversations. Grateful that he was here. Hope you are too. Peace.